Hi there, this is Ms. McDonald. This is the weekly agenda for November 3rd through 7th for Algebra 2. So when you go into the announcement, you can see the assignments for the week. You're going to be working on Delta Math 4.3. You have a Desmos or Amplify activity over graphing polynomials. It has a little bit of a review, a little bit of graphing, and then a preview for next week's assignment. So then also, if you receive your ACT Math number 5 back, that's been graded, if you want to make corrections and raise your score, you can do that. Again, talk to Ms. Lee if you have questions on the corrections. Math Plaza, don't forget to do your 30 minutes in the Math Plaza. You log that with the Math Plaza. There's no logging it with me or anything. If you're running into any issues, please let someone in the Math Plaza know, one of the tutors or workers in there. You should automatically receive a confirmation email after your sign out, so that way you can help manage and log your time. For the quiz, there'll be a quiz on Friday over graphing polynomial functions. Just as a reminder, the quiz must be taken in class. There's a 60-minute time limit. There's 10 questions on this week's quiz. You cannot use your notes. It's a closed note quiz, but you can use the Desmos calculator or the yellow calculators that are in class. So for the week, let's look at the agenda. Really, Monday through Wednesday, you're just working on the Delta Math where you watch the videos. That's like the lecture, and then the practice problems are right after. And at some point, depending on when you finish the Delta Math, I'd recommend working on this Desmos activity. I know I have it put on Tuesday, but if it ends up being something you work on Wednesday, that is totally fine. It's just recommended you get it done before Friday. So let's look at the Delta Math. Okay, so for this week's Delta Math, I know it looks a little bit long. Actually, the first two topics are things really from last week. So if you struggled with that area model box method with dividing, there are other ways to divide that I mentioned in a previous video. There's synthetic division and long division. Synthetic division is great, however, it only works in some cases. So if you're dividing by a linear function such as like x plus 8 shown here, or I don't know, x minus 3 or x plus or minus some number, then synthetic division will work. So it works in special cases. It is a shorter method, but again, it only works in special cases. So you can watch the video to see that, and then there's some practice problems. For the practice problems, if you're like, I'm great with the area model, I just want to do that one method, I don't even care about synthetic, you can solve this problem with the box or area model that you did last week. That is totally fine. I'm just trying to give you other tools for division if the area model was a struggle for you. The next method is long division. It's just like long division that you did in elementary school, just instead of numbers, you have polynomial functions. You have to be aware of zero placeholders. This method will work every time. It doesn't have any restrictions really. It's comparable to the box method. So again, either method will work. So when you get to the practice problems, try long division. However, if you want to just do the problem with the box method, that is totally fine. So then really the graphing part starts here with finding roots from a graph. So looking at x-intercepts, and then there's some y-intercepts, doing sign charts. All these different concepts are related to the actual graphing of a polynomial. So that's really more the concepts for the week. So if you have any questions, again, let Ms. Lee know. As a reminder, there are example videos and example problems here, if that helps you, through the Delta Math. Now, the next assignment is the Desmos activity. So let's look at the Desmos activity. Okay, for the Desmos activity, it's called Intro to Polynomials, Graphs, and Features. You can just click the link in the announcement, it'll open it. The first few slides or screens are really review. So just making sure that you understand the difference between polynomials and things that are not polynomials. There's some little interactive pieces where you click the buttons to see kind of different graphs that are and are not polynomials. There's a review of, again, what is and isn't a polynomial from previous weeks, naming. Right now, this is more review. These first few screens are review. So let me get to the first screen. Again, leading coefficients and degree. Again, that's kind of review. Here, screen 12 is really where we start the new concepts of graphing. So looking at the degree of the polynomial and how that impacts the number of times it crosses the x-axis. So you're going to click this button, and so I already clicked through degree 2. I would have counted the number of times it crosses the x-axis. Now degree 5. I count how many times it crosses the x-axis, so we type that in. And we're trying to see how the maximum number of times a function touches or crosses the x-axis based on the degree. Then you have this here where you are changing these numbers, basically trying to connect how the x-intercept relates to the factor. And again, you need to be doing this after the Delta Math, so it makes a little bit more sense. But like, for example, this x plus 5 represents the x-intercept here of -5. So then here, this is x equals -3. That means the factor is x plus 3. And then here, the x-intercept is +1. That means the factor is x minus 1, what we already have there. This x-intercept is at x equals 5, so the factor is x minus 5. And once you have everything correct, it becomes solid and you can see it. So it's making that connection between the x-intercepts and the factors in a polynomial. So again, you can do those screens. So there's a few with that. And then once you get, this is kind of like a culmination screen where you type in the x-intercept value. So like this would be 5, and it checks it off as you go. You fill it in. And then once you have everything, you will then draw the polynomial, whatever it might look like. It doesn't look like that, but you can draw on the screen for the polynomial to go through all the points. In this little Polly the parrot is the little points that you need to connect. Okay, and then starting on screen 19, this is more preview for what you're going to be doing next week with what's called end behavior. So again, it's not going to be tested on this week, but it's just kind of a preview, connecting some of those concepts of leading coefficient, how the graph is ending, that kind of stuff, like what happens at the ends of the graph. So the last few screens are more of like a preview for next week to help you with end behavior. So you can visually start seeing some of the end behavior. So again, there's some screens on that, some practice. You'll get self-checking and things like that. So then after you have the Delta Math and the Desmos activity done, then you'll be ready for the quiz on Friday that you'll be taking in class. If you have any questions, please let Miss Lee know, and I hope you have a great week. Thank you.